Have you seen Suits, and what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, we all love Suits, man.
Yeah.
Suits is like the best.
I love that show.
It's everybody. It's everybody, and I'm a trial lawyer, and so you think, okay, that is completely not real,
right.
But it's super cool.
Yeah. You kind of have to take off the hat, because my dad's the same way. He's a physician, and he'll see like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, and he'll be like,
no,
they would never do that.
They would never.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching, especially Suits, like, yeah, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
But there'll be every once in a while, there'll be a little glimpse where they actually do something, and the old smoking gun thing. That doesn't work.
Right.
That doesn't happen in trial.
Yeah.
We try to make it happen as best as you can, but that's the funny part about, especially about Suits, man. Where all of a sudden they'll come out with just the aha moment.
Right. Or say that again. You just gave me an idea how we're gonna bust this guy. But yeah, I think it's like every day seems to be game day. Whereas I'm sure.
Well, that part of it is pretty true.
Okay.
I mean, it's especially if you're in a litigation firm, if you do a bunch of litigation stuff, brother, it's intense. I mean, we have to be, it's high energy, high effectiveness. I've got a big federal trial coming up in a week or two. Okay. I mean, I spent all morning. We were there at 7:00 this morning. Just okay, what exhibits are we going to do? What's going to be the order? Who can we pull in? How can we modify this? I mean, so it's.
Yeah.
You are always thinking about an angle and how would this be perceived by a jury? That part's real.
Yeah. Well, we're probably gonna get into that pretty quickly. You're talking through just self-defense and stuff, but yeah, if you would just tell us a little bit about your practice, what you do. I mean, everybody we talk to about, I've told several people, like, you'll never guess who we're having on in the studio. It's Joe LaCourse, and they're like, no way, I see his billboards, I see his stuff, and yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Yeah. So. I'm been practicing law for about 30 years now. I've had my own practice since 1999. It's been kind of my own thing. I've had a few iterations of myself, but my firm is in Tulsa. We've got about 30 employees, so we're a reasonably sized firm here in this area. Handles all kinds of cases all through northeastern Oklahoma and actually over into, I'm going to Oklahoma City this afternoon, so we're kind of statewide in what we do. We're primarily a litigation firm. We are primarily handle trial and litigation matters for people. Okay. We're in the people business. Yeah. And so, man, we help people through all aspects of life, whether it's kind of injuries. Talk about billboards. I've got about 30 billboards all over the area, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
We market on television.
I know. I feel like I know you. I'm like, I see you every day almost.
It's so funny. People are like, man, I recognize you. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's what we do. I've got a great team of lawyers that work with me, man. Our greatest assets are our people, probably like what you guys do. Yeah, and we're in the people business. We love helping people.
Awesome. I love that. Well, the way we kind of started this connection is we're sitting around the office talking about, what's useful information for, our people. You mentioned people being important. And what we try to do with this platform is educate and inform to the best of our ability. Obviously, we try to have experts in the field matter that we can talk to. And, one of those being the idea of self-defense and how that is used, sometimes, abused. We see that a lot, sadly. And, there's two sides of it where I feel, self-defense is in some ways under attack by the judicial system, but also, you see just sad instances where people use castle doctrine or the stand your ground law, but it's actually they're the aggravator,
right?
And that's just a very, very much a different case than defending your family, yourself, your loved ones, etc.
100%.
And so I'd love to kind of just jump in there if you're okay with it, and talk through, castle doctrine, the stand your ground law, and if you could just kind of define it for us, kind of set us some parameters.
Well, first of all, I mean, when you start talking about Second Amendment, right? It's a flagship. It's a kind of it can be polarizing, so people feel very differently about that. I'm a massive believer in the Second Amendment. I think that people have a right to bear their arms. They have a right to protect themselves, and they have a right to do what is necessary to defend themselves and their family in a variety of circumstances. And that's where the stand your ground and the castle doctrine go into play, right? Okay. So the castle doctrine is really simple, is that in your home, in your vehicle, in your place of worship, you do not have a duty to have to run away. You have the right to defend yourself. And you have the right to use the reasonable amount of force that is being used against you to prevent yourself from bodily harm or damage or other imminent harm and danger, right? And so in those areas, both the castle doctrine represents the things in your home, your vehicle, your workplace. The stand your ground is a similar type of immunity, and I'll talk of the difference between immunity and self-defense.
Okay.
That's a very big distinction. The stand your ground or make my day concept, as they titled it kind of now, is that's outside of your home. That's in a public place when you have been brought into a circumstance or situation where you were in imminent harm and danger, where you have a life-threatening situation. You don't have a duty to have to retreat. You have the right to stand your ground and defend yourself. And that's the concept generally in those two things. So castle is just you have a heightened protection inside your home, inside your vehicle. Stand your ground, public forum, same concept, two different applications. Okay?
Gotcha.
Now, the interesting part about it is that when in fact you have had to utilize those doctrines and you have had to defend yourself and you have had to exercise force, whether it is the use of a firearm or other weapon, discharged it, that then provides potentially an immunity from you for trial purposes, okay? So, well, Joel, what does that mean, immunity versus self-defense? No, that's a great question, man.
Happy to ask it.
The idea there is that if in fact you've had to protect yourself and someone's been harmed or killed or otherwise, and a charge has been brought against you, the procedure is that you then file a notice of those two doctrines depending on where it happened. And so you say, hey, I'm invoking my castle doctrine. And at that point, a court will hear evidence, not a jury, not 12 people of your peers. A judge will hear evidence about what it is that took place. And if in fact that doctrine applies and the judge confirms that was a stand your ground immunity, then no trial takes place as the charges are dismissed and everything is done.
Really?
Okay. So it serves as completely an immunity to trial.
Okay.
You do not have to go to trial with those two doctrines. And the evidence that's heard surrounding what takes place is brought to a judge. Okay. Now, if a judge does not believe you and says that those doctrines don't apply, you still have the right to bring a self-defense challenge in front of a jury. So it's not like it goes away. You still have the right to say, I was defending myself. These are the allegations. He was attacking me. He was doing, whatever the situation might be for you. You get to bring that to a jury. That's self-defense versus immunity, which is a block to trial. So you want to try to have that. That's by far a better situation from you than having to defend yourself in front of a jury. Because, I love our system, man. We're celebrating 250 years. It's awesome. We have the best judicial system in the world. However, this concept of 12 jurors of your peers, brother, man, I've done a bunch of jury trials. That's my jam. I love talking to a jury. But if you think you're going to get 12 people like you sitting in that jury box, man, it's just not going to happen. So you never know what 12 people are going to come in front of you. Man, some of them might speak English, some of them might not. You're going to have people who are not educated. You're going to have people who are wildly educated, divorced, unemployed. They're going to be so different. And they may or may not connect with you. You just do not know. It's a risk.
Like their past stories, their opinions that are already preconceived.
Brother,
you're in front of that.
We call that bias. And as great a job as we try to do to eliminate bias, it just happens.
It's human nature. I mean, it's hard to avoid that, it feels,
And Second Amendment bias is huge. And sometimes you can't unpack that, but they feel it. And so that's why stand your ground and the castle doctrine are so important, because if you can invoke those, you never have to take the risk of dealing with bias.
That's great. Okay, so let me ask you this, because my instant question, when do you invoke castle doctrine? Is it at the scene? Like, I invoke castle doctrine? Or...
No, that's great.
Okay.
So I mean, what happens at the scene, right? Something happens, you've had to invoke you've had to discharge your firearm. You've protected yourself. What do? Man, you call 911. And you tell them in briefly exactly what took place. So you're giving a set of very specific facts. Somebody broke into my home. They were attacking me. I discharged my firearm. Please call 911. Please call an ambulance. Someone's been hurt. And you keep it very brief, factually specific, and simple. You're not invoking a doctrine. The only time you're going to invoke a doctrine is if charges have been pressed and you have to go to court.
Makes sense.
But you call 911, you secure the scene, you make sure that when the police arrive, that you're going to, after you've called 911, you're going to secure your firearm, make sure it's safe, make sure it's put in a place that no additional harm can happen. And you wait for them to come, and then you explain exactly what's taken place very clearly. And because the reality is if you've done that properly, then when the police are investigating it, it may never rise to the level of going to a district attorney because they know what those doctrines are. And they know
they can tell on the scene what's going on, right?
Yes, sir. If you've done your job and if you've explained it properly, then it may never ever have to rise to the level of having to give an official notice pursuant to Oklahoma statute of invoking those immunity doctrines.
Okay, cool. Well, I've got a question on the scene. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Not this podcast, obviously, but, that you see these Navy SEAL podcasts and first responder podcasts. One thing that I've seen is the applying medical aid to somebody that you had to enact violent force on. I'd love your 2 cents on that.
Sure.
Should you do it? Should you stay away from that? Does that open you up more? Because I could kind of see both sides of where that may open up a liability, but also, not prove innocence. But, if we're trying to use just enough force and potentially save a life, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So, man, now we're talking about kind of moral versus legal concepts, right? The reality is that if you've had to discharge your firearm and if you were imminent harm and danger, you need to make sure that harm and danger doesn't revive itself. Okay?
Yeah, true.
So if you have had to discharge your firearm, if you've had to, and you've wounded somebody, you need to make sure that your safety is continued to be maintained. Number 1, right? Because that's the whole concept, is that you were in force, harm, reasonably determined to be potentially deadly force.
Right.
And so you have to make sure that you've maintained that. All right. Now, if you believe that risk has been diffused, then that's actually when your right to use excessive force also goes away.
Right.
Okay. Those two things have to kind of meet and match each other. So if that risk has been diffused, and at that point you feel that you can safely provide medical care or treatment, then you would do that. If you do not feel that you can do it safely, then I would encourage people to be really careful about that, because that's where the conflict may arise.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Gotcha.
But we're human.
Right.
And I think that you have to make sure that you assess that properly. And if you can help save someone's life, then you do that. But if you can't do it safely, that's why you've called 911 immediately, and an ambulance has been there. They'll be there in minutes.
Okay. So when it comes to firearms, concealed carry, all these things, what's a small detail that you think is overlooked by most people?
Yeah. So listen, if you've discharged your firearm, what's going to happen, man? You've got an adrenaline rush. You've got a dopamine thing going on. You are anxious. Your heart rate's going to be elevated. You're going to be heavily breathing. And oftentimes, man, people lose sight of being really smart and reasonable in what they're saying. They're excited, and then they start just talking. And I think that usually what happens, people overtalk, right? They start talking about everything in the world and what, where Aunt Susie and where I got this firearm, and it came down from Uncle Johnny, and I didn't know he had a hair trigger on it. And you start talking about stuff that is just crazy stuff, right? And it's because we're so excited. And listen, the most important thing you can do is be calm. You have to call 911, and then you have to calmly articulate just those facts that are critical. When you start over talking, that's when people usually start saying things that are not helpful. The best thing I can do in depositions is let people talk. Right? It's a trial trick, right? And so you start letting people talk. You answer the question that's being asked of you in just that question, right? And so when you need to cooperate with law enforcement when they arrive, but make sure you're answering the question. They're counting on you over-talking. And over-talking is dangerous. And it happens naturally just because of where our body is at and the event that has taken place.
Yeah.
Deep breaths, get control, get your heart rate down, truthfully and accurately answer the question. This is what took place. Someone wrongfully entered my home. They were exerting force. I thought they were going to kill me. I thought I was in harm or danger. And I shot them.
Wow.
And here's the firearms that are there. Right?
There you go.
Over-talking.
Overtalk, get locked up. And so there you go.
Over-talk, get a lock.
Yep, there it is.
I totally just made all that up.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Was that AI? Are you AI? You might be
No,
AI.
honestly, that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But it literally is.
Yeah.
Man, people hate silence. Right? I ask a question, they give me an answer. I'll wait and look them in the eye. You know how long 5 seconds is? It's an eternity to you. It's nothing in the real life. But man, I'll wait just 5 seconds, look at them. And the next thing you know, blah, 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 they're going on. And I found out a ton more stuff because of a 5 or 10 second delay in silence. Man, we Americans hate silence.
Yeah.
And I just look at you, and 5 seconds, you're going to think I'm staring deep into your soul. And you just start talking. It's crazy.
I love that trick with my kids.
You got that, James? Oh, man, that's awesome. Again, going back to that scene, we've called the police. We've handled all these measures. The police are at our house now. What point do you look at a situation, you're like, okay, I need to get a lawyer involved? Because that's something too where, I imagine people who have been in that position, they know pretty quickly when that is, but when is a good indicator that you should lawyer up?
So seeking consultation from an attorney, I think, is important right out of the gate.
Okay.
Immediately.
Okay.
Right? This is a pretty unique scenario. Like if you look all over our area, this doesn't happen every day, and thank the Lord, right? I mean, I'm really grateful that doesn't happen. But that's why we have this doctrine, and that's why we have this, so that you in the event you've had to do that, I would seek counsel immediately.
Okay.
When you're at the scene, you're going to cooperate fully. If you suddenly get to the scene, you say, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right, I think that's a dangerous play, right? I mean, I think when you're at the scene and if you've had to do this right, and if it's clear, as soon as you get to the place where you believe that the police are now suspecting that you've committed a crime, then I would invoke my Fifth Amendment right and ask to speak to an attorney. Now remember, both the Castle Doctrine and the Stand Your Ground Doctrine are predicated on a certain fact, and that is you cannot be doing something illegal at that time. Okay? If you are in fact doing something illegal and you try to invoke that doctrine, it will not be used.
Right.
It's predicated.
So if I'm like smoking crack and shoot someone,
you're smoking crack, you're doing something illegal, and you shoot somebody, you've lost the right to stand your dog.
Makes sense.
Now, I'm going to tell you, there's a really interesting new case that just came out about a month ago.
Okay.
United States versus Hemani. And it was a United States Supreme Court case, and it kind of tangentially touched on this. What it said is that if, in fact, because we live in Oklahoma, we are a medicinal marijuana state. There are dispensaries on every other corner, it seems like, right? The old rule used to be, because marijuana is still not federally recognized, right, is that if, in fact, you had marijuana and were in possession of a firearm, that then you could be found liable, right? That has now been determined in this brand new case happened in June of this year. The United States Supreme Court said the very fact that you have marijuana does not mean that you cannot possess a firearm. Huge
Okay.
case.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't speak to the use of marijuana,
Right.
which is still not federally recognized.
Okay.
If you're using marijuana and have a firearm, it just means that it doesn't mean that by its very nature makes you liable or have a criminal act. However, just understand if you are impaired, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, whatever it is, impairment can be an issue in determining did you have
Right.
a rational ability to understand what was reasonable and if in fact it was deadly force or danger.
Wow.
So pretty interesting analysis, kind of a nuance in the case that just happened.
Right. That's
But yeah,
very-
if you're smoking crack and doing something overtly illegal,
Yeah.
brother, don't.
You're done.
Bad.
Yeah.
Don't look for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because even, we're an FFL, and so we do, kind of surprise drug tests even for just our staff because we're handling firearms every day. And so that's an interesting precedent that's been set now. So
Now remember, it does not stop your ability for self-defense
okay.
in trial,
Okay.
but it doesn't allow you to invoke those immunity doctrines.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
See that distinction?
That's a big takeaway, I think, for me right now is that immunity doctrine thing, because we, I think, pride ourselves on our morals, our values, our ability to keep a level head, and you want to do everything you can to not use your firearm.
Right.
You want to talk yourself out, walk away, run away. And so I think, at least for, myself and the guys in this room, the guys in this building, it's a last resort.
Absolutely.
But, it's good to know that there's, somewhere, some sort of, I don't want to say like lifesaver, but you have something in place that can prevent you from going in front of 12, biased people, in most cases. And I'm sure you can speak to that. It's just, you can't take that out.
Yeah.
And so that's huge. That's huge knowledge for us. And
Yeah,
so,
we're great. Oklahoma is very much a state that provides that. Our legislature recognizes that right and recognizes that there are those circumstances where, man, people should have that right to be able to defend themselves.
Okay.
So we're fortunate, and we're just in one of these places where, we can invoke that right, but you have to do it properly and with the right procedure.
Okay. Cool. Well, we can edit this out if we need to, but was there a case that you can talk about that was kind of centered around Castle Doctrine? Or,
Yeah, I mean, I've had a client who, a really early stand your ground situation. Somebody who had been previously in their home, had been a roommate. I mean, so that we actually was charged, and initially the court did not believe that it was a stand your ground because it was somebody that the person knew. But there had been alcohol involved and drinking, and so the question about impairment and was it reasonable to believe that deadly force was necessary came into play. Right, that's where impairment becomes a really big deal, and we're successful on that. I've got cases right now where I got an employer who has made a notice that you can't bring your firearm to the parking lot, right? You can't bring it in the building, but I have a client who's being impugned right now because he has a firearm in his car.
Wow.
Well, that's wrong. You have absolutely a right to do that. Now, there are certain places, schools, et cetera, where you can't. Just as a matter of law, they've defined those as areas you can't. But man, if you're working in a factory and you're going to work and you leave your firearm in your car and your supervisors find out that you have a firearm in your car, they do not have the right to take inappropriate action against
Agreed.
you. So,
Agreed.
all of these things are just challenges. And we want to stand up for the proper rights of the people. And those are really fun cases. And, we'll kind of see where they go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wishing you the best of luck with those for sure. I'm curious, as we're kind of talking about this, what are your thoughts on open carry? Because we look at open carry as, should it be allowed under our Constitution? 100%. You should be allowed to open carry. But when you look at it from an everyday life, thing is should you open carry is kind of the question. And, we take the stance of kind of like, why would you do that? But I'm curious, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, listen, again, two concepts, right?
Yeah.
Legally, at 100% legally, you have the right to do that. And our legislation and our state constitution has been affirmed in that. And, so you have the right to do that, right? But, there's some old scripture that says, while everything might be legal, it's not all prudent, right?
Yep,
so
100%.
there's that balance that kind of goes back to ancient text. You have to understand what's the perception that you are emanating. Why are you doing it? What's the reason? Is it just because I have the right to do it? Well, yes, you do have the right to, but you are now potentially portraying something that you might not want to portray. And that's going to be a really individual decision. And depending on the environment that you're in, it may just rise and create a situation that you don't need to have done.
Right.
And so, man, wisdom is such an important concept in all of this. And so, man, I would say if you feel the need to have an open carry, ask yourself why. What's the reason? What message are you doing? Man, it's like what you're wearing today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're at a funeral and everybody's dressed in black and you're the one person who's dressed in something otherwise, why are you doing that?
Right.
Are you trying to draw attention to yourself? What's its purpose? I think it has to be kind of done sometimes the same way with open carry. Listen, this isn't the Wild Wild West anymore, right? They think Oklahoma is.
Yeah.
When you go to New York, we think that we're cowboy hats and 6-shooters on our
Exactly.
side, right?
Exactly.
But we're not. We still, man, I'm in a business environment.
Right.
There are times I might be carrying. I feel it's when I go into some parts of rural Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I promise you, I am.
Yeah.
But it's not usually open.
Right.
Because I'm wearing a suit and I'm going into a certain court proceeding.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And it sends a really, really inappropriate message. So, again, it has to be contextual.
Yeah.
I think that has to be, man, use wisdom, use context, and what is your purpose?
100%.
Those are the questions I'd ask.
That's good. I love it. A question that I have that we've kind of talked about is when you get pulled over by a police officer and you're carrying. Now, this is something that I think there's two camps, very different camps. One is if it's not a problem and it's not viewable, don't bring it up. Just go about, cooperate, do everything, but just don't bring it up.
Yep.
And there's the other camp that wants to be, kind of, I guess, above and beyond and say, hey, I'm carrying a firearm just so you know, just so you're safe. What are your thoughts on disclosing if you have a firearm to a cop that pulled you over for, a traffic violation or a speeding ticket, whatever the case may be?
So, great question. Legally, there is no legal duty to have to do that. Okay? So, if you want to talk about just the law does not require you to have to disclose to a police officer that you have a firearm in your vehicle.
Okay.
So, at that point now it shifts to just judgment. And at that point, there are clearly two camps. I'm of a belief that it is probably better to let them know that you have your hands on the steering wheel. I mean, I've taken concealed classes. I've done all that kind of stuff. When you speak to officers, most of them, I've never found an officer who has said that they've taken action as a result of someone disclosing that to them.
Okay.
Right?
That makes sense.
And so, if you're doing legal things and you're not doing anything improper and you don't have any other paraphernalia or things in your vehicle that would otherwise be improper.
Set off some alarms maybe for the officer.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, there is no legal obligation to do that. Okay. Again, in every class that I've taken and in talking to numerous traffic officers, I don't know of anybody who's taken an improper action. Okay. Now, I am sure there are stories out there that people will say, oh my gosh, it led to something else. But for the general public, I would tell you, if it's just a traffic ticket, you're probably better doing that.
Yeah. I've had some people who have told the police officer that, I'm carrying a gun and stuff. And their response was just simply, well, as long as you don't pull it out, we're good. And so, and they're kind of like, I mean, we live in Oklahoma, Texas, same way. It's kind of like, well, you almost expect it where we live. And so that's interesting. I got pulled over downtown, it would have been a couple months ago, and was carrying, and the officer asked me to step out of the car and to look and see how out of date my tag was. And at first I was like, oh, I believe you, I don't want to,
I don't want to get out.
I don't want to get out and you see my gun. And so I just kind of, I briefly panicked, but I just got out and looked at it. And I mean, everything went fine, obviously. But it kind of hit me. I was like, should I have told him that? And I don't want to sketch out an officer, but I like what you said about maybe being above and beyond of just kind of like, hey, just letting you know. So.
And it's interesting too. And I just got back from vacation. I drove to Michigan, right? And so I actually had to think about the states I was driving through,
right,
to know about how should I have my firearm displayed, not displayed? What could I have? Where could I have my ammunition? Where did I have to have it transporting in different locations?
Right.
And so it's interesting. So every single state has its own different laws as to where your gun can be, where your ammunition can be. Some of it has to be completely not within arm's length of each other.
Yeah.
Some has to be completely packed. So you start thinking about those things because, man, I got in my car in Oklahoma and I am locked and loaded.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I'm in Ohio or another state in Illinois where they are very strict on what that needs to be. Right. And so just really be aware of that when you're headed across country and how that's done.
That's a great point. I have a buddy who now has a gun charge in Minnesota because he was looking for, I think, his license and registration, opened the glove box, and his gun was there. Yeah. And so they, and I don't remember the specific law because, like you said, everybody's different. And, you look at Minnesota, obviously a more left-leaning state with a lot more gun restrictions than we have in Oklahoma. Yeah. And so, it was a tough call with the police officer. I think they ended up taking his gun and his Tulster holster, which was with the worst part of it, And so luckily,
it was great for you. You have another sale,
right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. But would you trust AI to give you sound information on gun travel arrangements?
Okay, so I'm a lawyer, brother. We just got a mandate from our Oklahoma Supreme Court and from the federal judiciary that said, if I find you're using AI in writing your briefs, you will be sanctioned and the risk of losing your license, right? So
wow.
I'm kind of that as a mandate from me as a lawyer.
Okay.
Because, man, lawyers are doing stuff, and chat used to be using hallucinations. They would give you case law and statutes that never were existed, complete hallucinations, right? So listen, I have found that there are other, like Claude, probably does a little bit better job. I've got some actual material that is from some of the more generally used legal sources that we do use AI on. There is lots of documented sources out there that look at every single state, and there are sources that actually do that, like the NRA and some of those sources. If you see where Claude has gone out to that site and extracted that data,
cited it.
Yeah. So what you do is you ask the question to Claude. You say, "Hey, please give me what the travel requirements. If I have a firearm in my car, what are the travel restrictions in carrying that firearm with respect to where the gun has to be placed, where my ammunition has to be stored? If I can have a loaded mag, or does it have to be completely empty?" And provide me the source of where you got that from. Okay, that's what I do in every single analysis, because otherwise it usually eliminates hallucinations and lets you do the homework to make sure that it in fact comport with that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing too. I use it every single day. Yeah. I think that if you're not using AI, especially in my field, you're going backwards. Right. It's a disservice to our clients. But man, you better make sure that you're right. Yeah. And it's easy to figure that out.
It's a great tool. Awesome. I love it. I'm going to refer to my notes real fast and maybe ask a couple rapid fires here. No pun intended. Talk to us about self-defense insurance. Now, this is something, again, like everything, two camps, they do good marketing around it. As a marketing guy, I love seeing what people are doing. They really sell it to you. I myself don't have self-defense insurance, but talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so no, it's real.
Yeah.
You have to watch it. It's a contract. It's a policy. It's no different than your auto insurance. It's no different than your health insurance. And it has coverage. But man, if you're going to do it, then read the exclusions. Huge scenario that I would tell you is read what's excluded, right? Because my experience has been is that those exclusions are draconian. In other words, they bleed over, and there can create some ambiguity that allows the insurance company to say, you know what, sorry, I'm not gonna defend you in that, right? So you have to be really careful. If you're buying it, know what it is actually going to provide protection from, and know what it's not going to provide protection from, right?
Wow.
And I think if you read those exclusions, you might have a different sense of it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Let me ask you this. Do gun modification arguments hold up in court? So a gun modification like a compensator that reduces recoil,
Yep.
or a fancy trigger that you dropped in your gun that'll help you shoot faster.
Yep.
Things of that nature. Does that hold up in court?
So there's no law that would prohibit somebody from having a gun modification.
Okay.
Okay. So from a legal standpoint, you can modify, you can do all kinds of things. However, listen, what is your modification? If your modification is to help and assist in self-defense, that's great. If your modification is inscribing on the side of your gun, I'm going to kill them all. It's taking an ammunition and inscribing it. Right, that's a modification. Right, what have you just done? You now have projected that this is no longer about self-defense.
Right.
This is about aggression. Right?
Yeah.
And again, it's like drawing your weapon in a verbal argument. You are now the aggressor. When you start inscribing that, you have 12 people. You have a judge, right, who's going to define whether immunity takes place. You have 12 people who are going to define whether or not that's self-defense. And you now have put that modification on your gun. What do you think they're going to think if that's aggression or immunity or self-defense?
Right.
Man, you don't have a chance.
Right.
So legally, there's no prohibition to modification.
Okay.
You have to just make sure that it's done in a manner. For instance, okay, you have a firearm that has a night scope on it. Right? Why do you need a night scope for self-defense?
Right.
Not that it's wrong,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing inappropriate with that.
Right. Yeah.
But are you trying to snipe somebody?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to defend yourself?
Hard to argue sniping as self-defense.
Right?
Yeah.
And so again, it's like we had that there was a case in Oklahoma, man, where the fireworks stand case, right?
Yep.
Where, man, somebody came in, the guy races after them, jumps in the back of the pickup truck, and kills them, right? That was no longer self-defense.
Right. He wasn't in imminent danger.
And so it goes the same way with modifications.
Okay.
No prohibition. However, be careful of what the modification is.
Yeah. Be careful of how you posture yourself is what it sounds like. I mean, like the things that you described, inscriptions on guns, or I mean, as we've seen in criminal acts in writing on casings, it's like those are all signals that you might be a little, not playing with the full deck.
Right.
And
even your holster, right? You got the great holsters, and if somebody then takes their holster and starts inscribing things on that, man, all of that stuff is technically a modification. That's what it means. You've taken it from the manufacturer and you have modified it to some degree.
Right.
Man, that all gets to become used as evidence.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me ask you this then. Another, kind of the same vein, but when we look at, making content around guns. So like as an individual, if I'm posting, my guns, or if I'm posting myself shooting really fast, is that a do, is that a don't? Wisdom, talk us through it.
Yeah, no. So listen, the art of shooting a firearm is an art, right? It's a skill. And man, I've got buddies who are amazing at varying forms of it, whether that's trap shooting or whether that's rapid fire shooting, whether that's obstacle shooting. I mean, I've got a young lady who used to work for me, and she is like national. She's so fast.
Yeah.
going from station to station and using a firearm. And she's amazing. Listen, that's a skill. That's an attribute. I think that when you're doing videos and memes of practicing your skill, understanding that you know how to use it, where there's fair, hey, went to the shooting range today, man, getting really good, discharging super fast.
Yeah.
There is no prohibition against that. When you start using that in manners that can be interpreted, that remember everything, and I tell people this in all of our cases, our phones, our Facebooks, our social media, man, that has in court, that's called evidence.
Yeah.
And you think, man, if I do this, if I have to use my firearm and I've got this out here,
Right.
What are those 12 people going to think about me?
Right.
You have to have that as a background, right?
For sure.
If it's about going out and shooting and doing stuff recreationally, and man, that is awesome. There is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm great. I have learned to really be great with my firearm, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. That is a right and liberty that we have, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. When you start now doing gifts about hurting people or your motivations are challenged, that's evidence.
Yeah.
Careful with your evidence.
Be careful with that. Yeah. What's your favorite law movie of all time?
Okay, so Crazy, one of the most accurate law movies that actually is, you think, oh my gosh, they're doing this right. My Cousin Vinny.
You on drugs?
Real?
Crazy.
What?
Yes. Honestly, that whole law scene was more accurate than anything else. The most unrealistic one is probably Suits. The most enjoyable. I know, man. I know. We all want to be him. We all want to be him.
Yeah.
Probably the most inaccurate. In fact, I was watching Suits. I binged one night.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep for half the night because I kept going, oh my gosh. And so anyway, it was probably the most inaccurate.
Dang.
Probably one of the most fun.
Yeah.
But the most inaccurate.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Lincoln Lawyer show?
Oh, love Lincoln Lawyer.
He's the best.
He is the best. In fact, we do some criminal stuff, and so it's like funny. We hey, I need you to be the Chevy lawyer today.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Lincoln Lawyer's great. Again, highly unrealistic.
Yeah.
But super fun.
Right. Yeah. You haven't gotten kidnapped or anything, have you? In law.
But we just did some social media at my firm where maybe or not I just was kidnapped. So
we'll have
stay
to check
tuned.
that
Go
out.
to the LaCourse Law. Follow us on Instagram, socials. You may see a kidnapping scene.
Okay, we'll check it out. That's awesome. Have you seen any of the John Grisham movies?
Oh man, John Grisham's my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to jury tampering, anything like that, have you ever experienced it? Do you think it's real? Talk to us about it.
I just drove back from Michigan to Tulsa last week and listened to a whole John Grisham book. I do it most of my road trips. I stick in a John Grisham novel and will listen to it while I travel. So I'm a huge John Grisham guy.
Awesome.
Interesting movie, Runaway Jury.
Okay.
About jury tampering and about the influence. Do I think it's real? I would hope not, but I do believe there's the possibility of that. Listen, I'll tell you what I do. I get the jury list before a jury trial. Just did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
They sent me the jury list. I immediately take pictures of that list, send it to my team back in their office, and we are immediately taking those names, throwing it into AI now. I'm finding out what their Facebooks are like, what their registrations are like. I find out everything I can about them because I will have beforehand determined who I think the model juror for my case is.
Okay.
And then I try to find out, is this person, where do they fit in my model? And where do they fall politically? Where do they fall? Are they an activist? Interestingly, most of the time, we want to eliminate leaders from our jury panel, right? If you're a leader, then I have to worry about whether you're going to persuade a jury to go one way or another. And that's what Runaway Jury is, right? It's about finding a guy who's potentially could be a leader, feeding him information and seeing if he has the power to persuade a jury to go one way or another. So what I try to do is, man, we try to figure out who's going to be aligned with me, who are leaders. If we don't know where they're going to be aligned, then, man, I try to get rid of them. And so we do that in a kind of a wild way, and everybody does it, man. Whether we hire in jury consultants, they'll sit in the back of the courtroom as we're doing what's called voir dire, asking them questions to try to filter out bias and try to kick those people out.
Wow.
It's an art. It's the most fun and probably the most important part of any trial is voir dire and trying to figure out what jurors are.
Yeah.
And then praying that they have no influence with somebody.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the time we ask the court to take the case down outside the web, because even though a juror has been instructed not to use the web and not to investigate this case,
I'm going to do it.
dude,
Yeah. I'd do it.
we know they do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's
That's
wild.
awesome.
It's the most fun.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything else, when it comes to concealed carry, when it comes to, the Second Amendment and defending life and liberty, that you think people should know?
Yeah. So listen, our founding fathers, man, we created our Constitution and we created all of the amendments for a purpose, right? And the right to bear arms is while it's a right, it also, like everything else that we have, the freedoms that we have, can be abused. And I really, really believe that. I'm going to defend with everything inside of me, and I'm blessed that I've got a career and occupation that lets me do that. But when people go so far as and abuse those rights, then it hurts our general population. And I think with the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, we have to be really careful. You have to make sure that you're using it properly. We have to make sure that we're using wisdom. You have to make sure that you're aware of what your state's constitutions are. And if you don't like them, if you're in another state, man, that's what we have legislatures for, is to bring those bills before our Congress and our legislature to try to change them. Oklahoma is a great state for that, and I love that we live here. But man, please use wisdom. I think with respect to self-defense, that remember, you're allowed to mirror and to use the kind of force that's being used against you. And man, be smart about that. If it's a verbal argument, if it's something that does not require the necessity of your firearm, then there's no reason to use it. If it does, then that's where we have our laws.
Okay.
Wisdom is above all one of the most important attributes that we can have. I pray for it every single day.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, above all, get wisdom. Huh?
Above all, get wisdom.
Yep, come on. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you're in court later. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. If you would, just give the people, watching at home, a little bit of information where they can find you, how to best, engage and look into you.
Man, it's been my honor to be here. I think that I'm so excited about you guys being a Tulsa company and what you do, and a super high-end product. So it's been really my honor to come and talk about this in an area that I love and am passionate about. Yeah, our law firm, man, we're LaCourse Law. We handle cases all over the state of Oklahoma. We're centered here in Tulsa. We're looking at opening some offices in some other cities. But you can go to LaCourseLaw.com. We believe that, man, we provide an excellent service for people. Injury to divorce, call Joel LaCourse, 918-744-7100. Man, we are on Instagram, Facebook, social media, all the touch points. We do some serious stuff. We do some fun stuff. We'd love for you to come and take a look at us, and if we can help, it's a free consultation. Any issue that comes up, we're happy to talk to you about it, see if we can help you. If we don't think we can help you, and we'll send you to someplace else that they may be more equipped. One of the things you need to know is you need to know what you're good at, and you need to know what you're not good at. And so, I don't believe that we know everything, and so I'm humble enough to know that when we need to send you to someplace else, let's do that. But if we can help you, I promise you, we've got an outstanding team of people who would love to help you. Yeah, it's been a wealth of knowledge, I feel like, that you've instilled to us. And so we're very grateful for you to come and just share some expertise and whatnot. And so, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Tulster Talks. Give us a like, give us a comment, something you learned, or maybe you have an opinion on what was said. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to start a conversation with you. And so, as always, carry with confidence, and we'll see you in the next episode.